What are the Gunas? When I first studied the Gunas, I was really fascinated because it made so much sense. Now, let me just briefly explain it, what they are first, and then we'll go deeply into it. When we talk about nature, we talk about nature with its elements. There are 5 elements: air, water, earth, fire, and what have I missed out? Earth, water, fire, ether. Okay, there are 5 elements that make up the earth. And we are made up of those 5 elements. And everything in nature is made out of those 5 elements. And with nature, which is what we call Prakriti in Sanskrit, there is also an essence, an energy, qualities. And these qualities, there are 3. And these are called the Gunas. And isn't it interesting, in life as well, we have qualities. For example, the atom, you have neutron, proton, and electron. So the Gunas, we have Rajas, Tamas, and Sattvas. They're energies, they're essences of our being. So first of all, what is Sattva? Sattva is the energy of peace. We as yogis all work towards having more peace in our life. That's our goal. We want peace. Why do we want peace? Because when we want peace, life works for us. When we get peace, life works for us. So we are searching for peace. And we do all these practices so we can balance ourselves to get peace. So this is one of the qualities. The other quality is Rajas. Now, what is Rajas? It's the quality of a lot of activity, a lot of things going on in your mind. And these activities are related to something you want in return, right? I am doing this because I want to be famous, or I want to be rich, or I want to do this, or I want something material from the world. And Rajas is associated with this fever of wanting. And when you can't get, you get disappointed. Raja is also associated with excessive energy flow, excessive. And then we have Tamas, which is dullness, laziness, carelessness, apathy. And you get people like that. I can't be bothered. I can't be bothered. And they really can't be bothered. And this is tamas. And tamas is dullness. With a tamasic mind, you can't go far in life. Many people go into yoga because they think that, they need to be like so quiet. And they go into yoga for the wrong reasons. It's actually, they think they don't have to work in life. So they kind of use yoga as a tool to kind of be lazy. And that doesn't work. Oh, I am meditating 12 hours a day. Really? Because I want to be holy, but I don't really want to work. I don't want to work my way through this. So of the 3, tamas is heavy, negative energy. And now these 3 energies exist in everything that in life, including ourselves. Now, before I went into yoga, I didn't realize that I was a combination of all 3. Well, we all are. But I realized I had a lot of rajas. Because I was a hard worker. I was a really hard worker. And I worked very hard. But it was always to get something in return. And of course, when that something in return didn't happen in my life, what would you become? Disappointed, angry, frustrated. And then where could the peace come in? So when I learned about the Gunas, I realized that all of us fluctuate. All of us fluctuate between these moods. And they're like the 3 primary colors, red, yellow, and blue. You mix them and you get millions of shades of colors. Now the Gunas are the same. Some days we are Rajasic and Sattvic. Now this combination is quite good because you work hard. You need the energy to work. You need the energy, but you have sattva, so you are not looking for anything in return. However, if you are working for peace and you listen to this. This is the trick. And you have a lot of rajas. You will use rajas to get attention, thinking you are sattvics, but you use the rajas, the energy, to get the attention. Now, once you want to get attention, you're already caught in a trap. You're already, because you're doing good to seek a reaction. The moment you seek a reaction from anything, there is always some kind of business being done, and there is always a little bit of disappointment. I know, I'm so sorry to tell you this. Sri Patanjali does tell us, to a man of discrimination, all things are painful. What does it mean? Are we doomed? Absolutely not. It means that when you understand the flow of life, and you start to understand that every time you have this I, me, mine feeling, I want this in my life to make me happy. Why isn't this working to make me happy? When everything is, you're wanting to please you, you actually become very unhappy. And then when you learn yoga and you get more energy, and then you get everything you want, because that does happen, then you have a secondary problem. When you get everything you want, fear comes. I've got everything I want. What if I lose it? And we become even attached to sattva, your peace. Oh my God, it's true. I see many yogis. Oh, Nelly, I've been so peaceful for 8 months, and now something happens, I'm jerked, and I've lost my peace. I want my peace back. I want my peace back. Do you see this attachment to getting the peace creates a lot of stress in your mind? So how do we do this? How do we get through these phases in our life? And in the Yoga Sutras of Sri Patanjali, Patanjali tells us what is supreme non-attachment. Supreme non-attachment is when you are not even attached to the gunas. They belong to nature. Spirit is beyond nature. Spirit is beyond your wants and your needs and your moods. For example, let's use weather as an example, okay? So, because it's an easy one to understand. So on a sattvic day, which we have today, everything is so quiet, so blue, so clean, so beautiful. On a rajasic day, you will get everything rolling around, trees blowing, the ocean is so rough, lots going on, can cause a lot of damage. You know, heavy rains can cause a lot of damage. On a dull day, you will get tamas, which is like, ugh, I really don't want to get up. You know, when I was living in Gibraltar, when we used to have the heavy Levanta, I used to feel that the dull Levanta cloud would affect my mood. So the weather would affect our moods, right? And weather does. We all know that. So what is the job then? The job is learning to get into the sattvic state where you recognize that you even can't be attached to wanting a good day. Oh, why is it raining today? It spoiled my plans. No. Real sattva is going beyond that wanting of the peaceful day. It's a rainy day. Blessings. I am going to sit down and read and spend the day relaxing, or I'm going to catch up with the work I need to do, but joyfully, no attachment to the weather is affecting me. Now that is easy to do. When you practice yoga for some time, we all get quite good at doing this with the weather or for external things. The problem starts with ourselves. You know, that we have to remember one thing. We are human. We are very human, and we are nature. We have the 5 elements. So there are days when you're going to feel tamasic. I remember, when I studied this, wow, I was like, there are days I can really be lazy and not feel guilty about it. And I used to do lots of retreats and still do lots of work. And when when my time off comes, I'm just so happy to do nothing. I love it. I'll watch a nice series on TV with Les and no guilt. And all the yogis are telling me, oh, I really can't watch television. I can't do this. That's not yogic. And I go, well, for me, I'm really tamasic. I'm too tired. And this is like pleasing my senses, but it's doing me a world of good. No self-judgment. No self-judgment. Whereas before, I would judge myself. I can't watch TV because I'm not doing, I should do this. You see, that's too much rajas. I'm confusing myself with the rajas and the tamas and oh, I should get up, I should do something. No, I'm just really happy to do nothing. And I accept that is a mood. I'm human. Then there are days when you feel you want to do a lot, and then you look at it from a sattvic point of view and you say, look, I have the energy to do the work, but in order to overcome the results, because I'm working, but I don't know what kind of results I'm going to get. This is how you do it. I'm not expecting anything. I'm working for the sake of loving the work. So, and many times this has happened to me. I've worked with patients and then they've got angry with me. No problem. And it took me time in the beginning. I remember working with one patient and she really got really well after a year, and then she had a relapse after 6 months. I hadn't seen her, and then she came back to me and started blaming me for a relapse. And then I realized, don't get attached to all this work too. You cannot heal everyone. But she started swearing at me and I accepted it. I laughed about it. Fine, this is how she thinks. No problem. You can leave. Absolutely no problem. And for me, this was a sense of freedom, a non-attachment, because I realized I was growing up. I wasn't attached to working for a result. And that made my work so much more precious. Prior to that, that client taught me so much. I was attached. I expected my students or my patients to love me. Well, a lot of nonsense. They have no responsibility to do that anymore. That gave me freedom. Freedom, no attachment. And that's what the Gunas taught me when I read the Bhagavad Gita, and I hope to read to you some of it today on the Gunas. That's what it is. That is what now I understand. It's not, these people haven't come to hurt me or not hurt me. They've come to teach me to let go. The secret is non-attachment, right? The secret of our entire life is non-attachment. Practice is easy to do. If you practice meditation, you practice contemplation. But non-attachment is one of the hardest things. And how do you get over that? By understanding that even the gunas are all part of nature, all part of human personality. Now, this client, for example, she was very rajasic that day, very rajasic. So she got very, very angry. She expected me to heal her. So she got angry with me. Anyway, when you let go of things, they always come back. So 2 years later, she comes back to me after lots of therapy, apologizes and saying, Nalini, will you take me back? I'm really sorry. I picked on you. No problem. And that's also a non-attachment to, no, you hurt me so much, I'm going to throw you out. No, fine, welcome back, but don't expect me to heal you. You got to do it yourself. And this is why I love teaching this science. I love to teach this science because most people want a magic pill to heal themselves. You can't. I can give you all the tools. There are the tools. No, now you are tamasic. That's when you feel very depressed. You're very low. You don't want to do anything. So how do you work on being... Now, for a person who's tamasic, I cannot ask them to be sattvic because it's difficult from being dull to being peaceful. So I have to teach them to be a little bit rajasic, to want to do something for themselves, because that's the cure for that. If I tell them to sit and meditate with a depressed mind, they become more depressed. Because why? When you meditate, you magnify your thoughts. It just magnifies. So what do I tell them to do? Go for long walks, do some running, do some exercise, go play golf, go play tennis, do something that creates energy. Take a course, go for a study course, anything that wakes you up, but really something physical first. I get them to do something physical first because they got to wake the body energy up. Hatha yoga classes are great because it works on your endocrine system. It works on your, at the end of a yoga class, you get what we call dose. When you finish the class, you've got dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, and your endorphins are going. So you really get the best medicine with a Hatha yoga class. But not everybody wants to do Hatha yoga. So swimming is another beautiful one. Today I was in a car. Daria was giving me a lift home, and she said she was so inspired by another student called Selena, who told her she teaches, swimming, or she swims to raise money for charity. And she was saying, and I was in the water, and I was swimming, and I felt so wonderful, because action and peace together, you see? So that is what the kind of cure I would give somebody who was tamasic in character. Now, the person who's rajasic and all over the place, we introduce two things: a little bit of sattva and a little bit of tamas. Workaholics, you know them. I have to keep going, I have to keep going, I have to keep. No. You balance a little bit more. Take a little time off. Go take a gentle walk by the beach. Listen to the sea. If you can't meditate because your mind's going crazy, just breathe in and breathe out. But make some quiet time for yourself. Take some time. Oh, but Nalini, but I have so much work and I can't do it. Yeah, but your work is getting you stressed and it's getting you sick. But I have to because it makes me feel like this and and I make my money and makes you ill. And makes you ill. So much money and you can't even enjoy it. What for? So you introduce some of that to the nature. And then for the person who is sattvic, this is the best state to reach when we are in this life. Because to go beyond the gunas is a little difficult. It takes many, many years of working on oneself, knowing what triggers oneself, what gets you into the wrong foot, knowing yourself. Please get to know yourself first. So you have to understand your own triggers. Accept your own triggers without judging them, and then start to fix yourself. Not fix anybody else. Fix yourself. How do you fix yourself? For example, people tell me, oh, but I have a very nervous disposition, which is very rajasic and tamasic, because it's also a lot of I, weak, I can't do this, right? So you inspire them with energy and strength and breathing. I tell you, pranayama is one of the most richest and easiest of methods, and I'm so pleased that today there are many people talking about breath, to use your breath to bring in the oxygen to your body. And you feel it when you do the 3-part breath, or just simply say deep breathing, where you just take a deep breath, expand the abdomen, expand your lungs, exhale, and just relax. You do that 3 or 4 times, everything becomes a little quiet. And then you can do your work with this sense of peace. And when you see yourself getting agitated, sit down. Really, it is not difficult. And I've watched many people change their rajasic life to a more sattvic way of working. Is it wrong? That's another thing. To be rajasic, when you own a business, of course, you own a business because you need to make the money. Is it wrong to do that? Absolutely not. But understand, when you're in a business, you need the rajas. You need the energy. Business is business. Our Gurudev always used to say to us, when you're doing business, you have to act like a business person. When you're doing yoga, you have to act like a yogic person. When you with a lazy fellow, you have to understand laziness. If you want to catch a thief, you have to think like a thief. And when he said that, it just made so much sense to me. Another story that helped me a lot that my master told us, it was going beyond the Gunas, again, the supreme non-attachment, which is what we yogis are working towards. Was he said he was invited in India to speak at some police academy. And the speaker before him was the commissioner of police or something. And the commissioner of police was, oh, people are, these prisoners, these horrible prisoners and these thieves, and we're getting rid of all of them, and really aggressive, angry talk, right? And then our master went up and he said, yes, they do all these not such good things. But in a way, we have to thank them. And everybody goes, what? Yeah, because if we didn't have those rogues, there would be no policemen. And if there's no policemen, there would be no lawyers. There are no lawyers, there are no business people. The whole chain is going to break down. And that just made so much sense to me. Everything existed. We are in a world of duality, whether we like it or not. Where there is darkness, there is light. Where there is hatred, there will be love. Where there's man, there's woman. Where there's up, there's down. And all this is involved in gunas. And if we look at it, it is all designed. It's a perfect matrix designed for us to get to the stage where, hey, it's life. Don't get so serious about it. And when we make a mistake, when we do something wrong, I've seen many people hit themselves. No. Why? You've done something wrong. Okay, you won the wrong guna at the wrong time. Now that you know better, forgive it. Forgive it. You're human. This is the essence of humanity. The 5 elements, the 3 essences that we are made up of. Do you condemn a proton because it's got a neutron, electron, and electron, proton, and neutron? Yeah. Do you condemn it? No, because it needs to work. It needs to spin with all these things. It creates energy. So we have all these things, and all nature has. It's not good or it's not bad. It's learning to balance without judgment. Balance without judgment. When you start to balance in judgment within yourself, you stop judging others. You just stop judging others. Now, at this point, I'd like to read to you some of the Gita. There's whole 3 chapters on it. And, it fascinated me because to get to the core of understanding the human, you really have to understand what we are made up of. How our body works, how our subtle astral body and what we bring with us, the chitta, works, how our mind works in conjunction to it, and how do the spiritual sciences teach us to heal. To really understand that, you must study yourself. And when you study yourself, you understand that the healing starts here with you. First and foremost with you. And this is why we have the yamas and the niyamas. And that's why I say, before you can even start on the road to sattva and peace, we must make peace with our past. And we must forgive our past. Because really, at the end of the road, you realize there's nothing to forgive. Because everything that you experienced that was traumatic was there for you to let go of expectation. I know it sounds harsh, and for people who've been abused, it's really harsh. But I have seen people who've been terribly abused and gone through it, gone suffering for many years, and turned out like diamonds, wonderful human beings, which they would have never been if they hadn't got themselves out of that cycle. And then in return, they start to serve the world because they've gone through it. They understand now, and they understand the spiritual aspect of non-attachment. And they learn that the only way to free themselves is not to cause any more violence anymore, not to speak words that hurt anymore, not to take anything that isn't theirs, to practice moderation in all areas of their lives, and finally, non-greed, not to be greedy. And when they balance all these, then, and the gunas, they understand the gunas can take them over. When they understood that, then they work on themselves as if they're a subject. They become their own patient. And this is the understanding of gunas for me. Before I learned all this science, I used to judge myself terribly, you know. Now I say, okay, I perform this action. If it's not good, if it was based on rajas, I will go, meditate on it, and then apologize to the person I caused harm to. And no problem with the ego, because it's transcending your ego. I have to be right and you have to be wrong. You really have to transcend your ego. So then you learn, and the more you free yourself from all these knots of the ego, the more free you become. And then you easily forgive yourself. You easily forgive yourself. And if you easily forgive yourself, you will start to forgive others easily. It's just because you're kinder to yourself. You're not so judgmental on you. And this is where low self-esteem comes from. And this is where I see a lot of people suffer from. So, but I'd like to read to you chapter, not the fields of its snow, although all that is part of it. So, here, the three qualities of nature, chapter 14. I just read some of this to you. I think you will love it. And here, Lord Krishna, being the higher self in all of us, is telling Arjuna, who's trying to learn about life, you know, why is his family fighting with him, and why are they doing so much harm to him? And now he has to fight for a battle, and why, you know, and how to understand this. And he goes, I will tell you more about the supreme wisdom by which the great sages and saints went from this world to a state of perfection. Those who rely on this knowledge feel themselves at one with me, the higher self, God, whatever you want to call it. And you know that. We've seen it in Lord Jesus' life. We've seen it in Gurudev's life. We have seen that they can do it. We've seen it in other people do this. Gandhi. Thus they do not see themselves coming into the being at the time of conception, nor are they disturbed at the so-called moment of death. In other words, you learn that you are divine, that, you know, you don't, first of all, you learn you're eternal. Life is just a play that you have to go through. So when things go wrong, you don't get so disturbed by them. You realize that this play is necessary for you to go through. It is necessary for you to go through certain things to grow up. And you don't worry about death, because that's the natural way of everything when we come to this earth. Everything is born and everything dies. When you understand that, you become more peaceful. My womb is Prakriti. So now we're talking about divine consciousness or God. And he says, my womb is Prakriti. What is Prakriti? Nature. So nature is the womb of the divine. And thus all beings are created. So we are all created from that divine energy. Everything that comes into being does so from the womb of nature. So everything that exists, everything comes from this divinity. Mighty Arjuna. The forces, you see, Arjuna is a bit depressed when he's going through all this. And what is he trying to do here? Lord Krishna is trying to make him feel good about himself. So he's saying, you're mighty, mighty. He's encouraging him, inspiring him to believe in himself. Mighty Arjuna. The forces of nature are harmony, restless activity, and inactivity. Harmony is sattva. Restless activity is rajas. And inactivity is tamas. They arise from the creative energy. They arise from Prakriti, which binds the indestructible one fast to the physical body. He says, at the moment you come into nature, the unmanifested one, listen to this, the indestructible one, the highest self, the divine, is bound to the womb. So the divine's in all of us. It's bound to the womb as a mother to the child, right? The child is born, bound, there's a connection. And he says, although the sattva guna is pure, luminous, without obstructions, still it can bind you by giving rise to happiness and knowledge to which the mind readily becomes attached. And this is interesting because we want sattva, so we want to be happy all the time, Not possible in this world. Sometimes when somebody passes away, you're going to feel a little sad. Does it mean you're not a yogi? No, it's normal. Do you know, sometimes yogis expect that all these feelings are going to go away, and life is, after you practice yoga or you're spiritual, life is just going to stop being life. No. It's going to continue. You are going to feel these things. So accept them. Don't get attached to that. I was so happy and now I'm no longer happy. I want to be happy again. It too will pass. It will pass. Everything passes. You will be happy again. This is just a flow of nature. You will be. Mighty Arjuna know this. So, the seed of passion is rajas, restless activity. Arjuna, which gives rise to sense thirst and thereafter the bondage of selfish attachment. This in turn turns to compulsive behavior. So rajas is compulsive, and this is where you find people who've had very traumatic experience in life. If they don't get some therapy, if they don't get some help, what happens is they start to want things to please them all the time and gets compulsive in their behavior, and they're just fighting themselves internally all the time. And this is where the addictions come in, because they're craving for that something. Okay, if I do this, this will happen. So they're craving, and this is the difference between pleasure and happiness. When we seek pleasure, it gives you the high initially, and then it goes. For me, the word is peace. When you seek peace, permanent peace, this is the highest thing to seek of all. Seek peace. But if you seek pleasure, like Gurudev would say, he would say, okay, you see a delicious cake, you have one slice of it, you love it. Now you keep eating because it's so delicious. What will happen? You'll get sick. And actually, after you've eaten the whole cake, you want to throw up. You won't like yourself. You'll say, why did I do this? And this is kind of like rajasic compulsive behavior, But know that the quality of tamas veils the mind in ignorance. It veils the mind. It's like you've got a dark cloud. When people are in tamas, I always say, you're under a black cloud. Don't worry, it will pass. Like the fog, it will pass. Fog passes. It's like a black cloud, and you can see it in their faces. Thus, in turn, deludes and binds all embodied beings through carelessness, laziness, and oversleeping. You become careless, you become lazy, and you start to oversleep. Now, when you start to see yourself doing these things, please, the moment you start doing these things, being careless, lazy, or just wanting to sleep all the time, before you get into a rut, make sure you get a good friend to help you to inspire yourself and get up and practice. Or nowadays there are great videos on TV, on YouTube. There's so many positive things you can listen to these days. We're really in really interesting times, and so many wonderful people. Get inspired. Whoever makes you feel inspired, start to listen so your mind can get out of it. So he says, sometimes, Arjuna, sattva rises above rajas and tamas and predominates. Sometimes rajas is above sattva and tamas, and sometimes sattva is with rajas. So he's just saying it just happens. These things happen. It's life. And then he says, when the light of wisdom shines through all the gates of the body, this is a sign that sattva is dominant. When your body shines, your skin, your eyes, your body just feels, you feel full of life, you feel full of energy, you're ready to get going in a different way. And this is when you're in a very good place. We all know that place, right? When we have it, we really know it, yeah? And then he says, wherever you see greedy behavior, restlessness, or continuous thirsting for one thing or another, Arjuna, this is a sign Rajas is dominant. Now here he's being very clear. When you see greedy behavior, I have to have. And when tamas is dominant, ignorance, sloth, and indiscriminate thinking arise. You're just not thinking straight. You're just not thinking straight. If the mind is predominantly sattvic, when the body dies, then the soul goes to the pure realms of the wise and who know the Supreme. Isn't that wonderful? So even if you don't go beyond the gunas, but you keep yourself at the sattvic state, at the moment of death, you will go to these higher realms. You'll connect with the divine. I think this is so hopeful. If the mind is predominantly rajasic when the body dies, the soul in time, because you'll spend some time wherever, will be reborn amongst those attached to compulsive behavior. If the mind is predominantly tamasic at such a time, the soul is later conceived by parents who are ignorant of the truth and deluded. So this is why we practice. I always say we practice yoga as an insurance to the next life. I make a joke out of it, but really I'm not joking, So let's work at sattva. And in the 6th chapter, Arjuna asks Lord Krishna, he says, Lord Krishna, what if we're doing this practice and by the time we die, we haven't really achieved the supreme non-attachment? And he says, no worry. No bad can come to anybody who has done good. They will come to parents. If you've really worked all your life and you come to parents who help you, they'll be prosperous and spiritual at the same time. That way you don't have to worry about money and you can continue your spiritual pursuit. Or you can come to a home of yogis where both mom and dad are doing yoga practices, or spiritual practices. Not everybody does yoga practices, but they do spiritual practice. All traditions, the parents may do spiritual practices. And this kind of birth is a very blessed birth, And so that's what he says. The fruit of good actions is pure and a sattvic mind. The fruits of rajas ultimately are painful and suffering. And the fruit of tamas is ignorance, mistaking the unreal for the unreal. And I'm just going to read. And here he says, wisdom arises from sattva. Wisdom, to know yourself, to know why am I here on this earth? What lessons do I need? Now, that you can only learn when you're really in a peaceful state. When you are peaceful, then things come up in your mind. In meditation, they come up. And okay, why is this hurting me? Because I'm very angry. That comes from rajas. So what do I need to do? I need to first work on that. What's making me so angry? And you might feel, I can never get over it. But you practice Yoga Nidra. Every day you visualize that you're getting stronger and stronger. And then when you get strong and see yourself smiling, see yourself joyful, see yourself not involved in your own pain, see yourself reaching out to your family, giving them love, see it every day. And one day you get up and suddenly you're doing it. But you have to do the practice. Nobody can do it for you. Whoever sees that all actions are done by the forces of nature, which are the gunas, and knows the one who is beyond, the one, the consciousness, the higher self, the God who is beyond that, surely that person is a seer and rises to my state. Now, how would I explain this one? Ishvara Pranidhanam. Surrender. Surrender to divine. All these things, the gunas, are playing with my body, my mind, my spirit. And I know the plan is perfect. I surrender to that plan. This is just things happening through nature to make me grow. I totally understand that the one is behind it, protecting me, pushing me forward. And how I remember this is, again, having my master made it so clear to me. He always used to say, it's all its form, it's all its name, it's all its deed, and it's all for good. It's all divine. It's all divine. Trust the divine. And having this knowledge, and this is what Arjuna is telling Krishna. Krishna is telling Arjuna. Having this knowledge will help you understand yourself, help you understand the ways of life. And when you understand that, then you can let go. You can let go. And you know that all nature has created you to be this personality, this character, so that you can excel in the character you were given with this knowledge. And he says, because the gunas give rise to the physical body. Remember in the beginning he said, you come out of my womb is the gunas, I am attached to that. Okay, so the divine is living through us. This is where St. Francis saw this very clearly and said, make me an instrument of your peace. My master would say to us, we are instruments of peace, we just forgotten. We have the divine in us, we just forgotten. We just don't believe it. We got too wrapped up in earthly stuff that we forgot this. And he said, those still embodied ones who transcend the gunas also leave behind the cycle of birth, pain, decay, death, and attain immortality. We can attain it. And you can attain it when you're living. And such a person is called a Jivan Mukta. One who's living in this painful world of gunas, understands it totally and transcends it, and accepts the moods of themselves and they're just not bothered by it. They're detached from it. And because they're detached from it, it passes very quickly. When you're detached from something, it passes very quickly. But if you're attached to something, it takes a long time. Okay? So he says, so Arjuna asks, Lord, what are the signs of those who have passed beyond the three forces of nature? How do they conduct themselves? And how did they get beyond the grip of nature? How can you do it? This is really hard. And the Blessed Lord replied, when nature's qualities are present, such people neither become attached to or reject the light, activity, or delusion. They neither attach to it or they neither reject it. They just accept. And when these qualities are absent, they're not missed. So sometimes you're just not bothered about any of it. They're not missed. Why am I not working out enough? I have to force myself. Or why am I not resting, enough? Like people say, no, you need to rest. But I do rest when I need to rest. I mean, Anna came home today. I've been working all day. Sat in the sofa. I'm really enjoying the sofa. Fine, I'm resting when I need to rest. If I don't need to rest, I don't need to rest, right? So don't get attached to all this stuff, because then you say, I need to rest. I'm going to get sick. Do you see the mind starts playing around? I need to rest Sunday, nothing on my books. I need to rest. I know I need to rest. I've had a busy week. I'm not going to I need to rest. I'm going to get sick. Which is what I used to do in the past, right? It's too much noise. It's too much thinking. You're just okay, if I have to do it, I do it. And I don't do it, I do it. And when I have to rest, you don't get so attached to all this stuff. I mean, that's what this has taught me. So you practice it on yourself, all right? You don't need to hate Rajas and Tamas. If you see a tamasic person, don't judge him. Probably you were once like that before. Now he is growing just as you did. The one who has gone beyond the Gunas neither likes or dislikes. You see everything as part of nature's work. You become above that. Even a sattvic person is attached to pious learning and spiritual practice. Sometimes people are too strict in their sattva, they don't enjoy life. I mean, they think they're happy, but they're too pious, right? Look at this. I love this. Because sometimes I've thought that about people, and I thought I was wrong to think of it. No. Sometimes we get over the top. Sometimes when people are, like when I do the Raj, the 5.5 day course, the short course, the foundation course of Raj, we're doing this all day, right? From 10 or 9:30 till 4:30 or 5 in the afternoon. It's too much. I tell the students, when you go home, please do not study. Please do not read a book. I want you to go home. Everything you've studied, apply in your life. Done. Apply the study as life. But don't read the stuff. I want you to live the stuff. And the only way you can understand it is if you put the book aside, and if you're not clear, go back to that sutra, go back to that sloka, go back, read it again, and read one sutra for a month if you have to, until you understand it. It takes a process. And if you don't understand it, Anna said something to me today that, like she said, we talk in yoga, for example. Can I use that? It's a good example, right? She said, when you talk about using one method in yoga to strengthen your mind, I get so confused because there are so many different methods. There's this, there's that. And Giovanni, one of our students, I was doing the Raj Yoga with a small group of people. And she said, I know, Nana, you say, and the scriptures say, stick to one practice. But then, we're doing other chants, we're doing other things, we're doing that. I said, no. It just means that in your formal daily practice, for example, my daily practice, when I first started, my daily practice for at least 10 years was I got up really early because my kids go to school, and I always gave them breakfast. That's one thing I always did. I believe families should eat breakfast together. Me and my husband always believed that. So anyway, get up at 5, do my meditation, do my hatha, repeat my mantra, and listen to Gurudev. That was my stick to one practice. The rest of the day, I apply that in my life. And then if somebody puts on a nice Gayatri mantra, I love Deva Pramal, I will put it on all day and sing with it and love the energy. And then if we got 60s music and the Beatles, I would love and sing with that too. And some of the songs would make me feel so uplifted. As much as the meditation would, I wouldn't judge it, but my practice was, that practice that I did every morning was the same practice that I did for 10 years, and still now continue to 30 years, except after the first 10 years, I couldn't always incorporate the hatha every day. So I try to do it 3 times a week, and I do a 20-minute session 3 times a week myself, for me, for my health. So that is the steady practice. That is the one practice you stick to. And also my master gave me one mantra, and that is the permanent mantra that I keep all the time. So when I'm not listening to music or other things, maybe I'm just silent, I hear my mantra, my initiation mantra come up. It just comes up because of all the years of practice. Then it becomes the permanent practice. So Anna said to me today, she said, Nalini, I couldn't understand this, but now I understand. You do the practice and you enjoy everything else as part of the practice of being in sattva. Yeah, you got it. You don't judge that the other thing is not practicing. You don't say, this is my spiritual time and this is my human time. No, all time is spiritual and human together in one. And that's what you got now, right? And she said, I got it, but I didn't get it. But yesterday, I finally understood it. And this is what happens. It just takes time to understand these concepts. You see everything as part of nature's work. You're above all that. Even a sattvic person is attached to pious learning and spiritual practice. The one caught up in rajas is always up and doing. What seems good to her executes devotedly, and what seems bad she abhors and avoids. So the rajasic person, also a good person, rajas doesn't mean bad, but you will do only what you like, you don't do what you don't like. And there are many jobs in life that we don't like that we have to do. Right, Michelle? Paperwork in Spain. And accounts. She was telling me about that and I was laughing, If you have to do paperwork in Spain, we laughed. But she did it all and I want to copy her. She's so good at that. And that's what we do. But I've done much of it recently, right? We got our TIA, so bit by bit it gets. And then when she was talking like that and she said, no, I did it. And then I thought, wonderful, she's done it. And she's Irish and she's, with her little Spanish, she managed to do it all and sort it all. And then you think, and then she comes smiling, I did it, da 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 da. It's such a good feeling, isn't it? And you had to talk to me so I could give this as an example, right? Something you don't like, you had to do, you did it, and you got through it. So this is what it's basically saying. It's a nice example of that. However, the tamasic person is lethargic, sleepy, and he welcomes those qualities very much. He's even annoyed if you disturb his sleep. So it's good to know that if you are annoyed when somebody wakes you at that moment, your mind is controlled by tamas. So be a Jivan Mukta, the liberated one, and don't worry about what others say. Others don't know you. People will judge you always. They see what they see. And one day they'll love you, and one day they don't. And this is what I was talking today at the the teacher training in Gibraltar today. I said, we so much judge ourselves by the way we think people look at us. And this is a great lesson I learned from Christianity, Lord Jesus. And the lesson I learned was, 1 week before he was tied to that horrible cross and treated and mutilated so badly, the people were saying, Hosanna in the highest, King of Kings. 1 week later, crucify him. Only a few people who really loved him stuck by him. Where were the crowds? Where were the crowds? They could have saved him. If the crowds all went up and demanded he be free, he would have been free. But the same crowds that listened to him a week before, King of Kings. Oh, because Caesar said this, we don't want to get in trouble. And only a small quantity of people stuck by him. And I said, they do it to Lord Jesus. What more will they do to us as human beings, normal mortals of the world? So live a beautiful life, so long as you don't hurt anyone purposely, and understand yourself. And don't live just to make. It's really nice to make people like you, because people are wonderful, and I really love people, but don't have any expectations. And like he said, don't judge people who might be very rajasic or tamasic when you understand, oh my God, they came into this world to teach me this is not what I want to be. I thank those people who taught me when they were so horrible that that's not what I want to be like. Without them, how would I learn? Without the robbers and the thieves, how would the policeman have a job? So it's the same kind of thing, So But if you would like others also to see the real self in you, keep your mind clean. And with your clean mind, you can also see them well. If you like yourself, you can also like them. If your mind is not full of horrible thoughts, you will not see horrible things in people, because you see them through the same glass. So if I put a blue glass between you and me, I could say you are wearing a blue shirt, and you will say I'm wearing a blue robe. Neither is correct. But if you see yourself correctly, you needn't worry what I say. Even if I say you're wearing blue, you will think, probably he is seeing through his tamasic mind. I know I am wearing white. You know yourself. We don't have to fight when others see us in their own way. It all depends on the color glasses they are wearing, what guna controls their mind. Before you label other people as this or that, beware of your glasses, the color of your mind. Clean the mind well, and you will have the correct vision. So, here we have the gunas and the power of nature. And there's a lot more in this book, chapter 15, 16, and 17. If you do have the Living Gita, do read up on it. It's very interesting. It taught me a lot about myself. As I always say, we have to be the subject of our study. I, the higher self, looking at Nalini as a human being, and you as the higher self looking at yourself as a human being, rather than wasting all your time trying to analyze everybody else, because we can never know what anybody else is really thinking of us. Spend more time purifying the mind, keeping it clean. So if somebody is nasty to you, your mind will be clean, and it cannot, you create a force field of light. And even if they hurt you and it hurts a little there, that force field will protect you to make it really deep. And then because it hasn't gone so deep within, it is easy to take out. You'll say, oh, they didn't know better. Oh, silly people, let them do their silly stuff. They're calm, I can't be bothered with it. Why am I making it mine? You say, oh, you can't be bothered with nonsense. And you start to make yourself free. And this is the wonderful thing about understanding the forces of nature, as we are part of those incredible forces. So understand them well, and everything has it. Isn't it interesting? Everything is in trios: Father, Son, Holy Spirit. You know, what else can you think? Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva. You know, creation, destruction, and preservation. Everything is in periods: the knowing, the knower, the knowing, and the knowable, and the knowing. You know, 3 stages. There has, you see, before, let's say you want to study a subject in meditation. So this is you, and that is the subject. Before you really understand it, you have to do the knowing. And then what you need to know, and you become one through the process of knowing. But the process of knowing can take some time. It can take some time. So be patient. My advice is always spend some time alone in contemplation. Sometimes it's hard to meditate when the mind is very rajasic or tamasic. So what should you do when it's hard? Just contemplate. Take out a nice spiritual book and start reading a little, understanding yourself. Contemplation is amazing. It can make you many great truths. We call this Jnana Yoga. Just contemplate. I find contemplate by looking out at the garden really just awakens a lot of thoughts. To me, many people talk about nature, or you can have a temple, your own temple. You know, I always advise all my students, please make a little space in your house. That is yours, your quiet space. It's really important that is your quiet space, because if you charge that space with energy, what happens is, even though you're very, very disturbed, and this comes back to, again, the one practice, you got that space space in your home that is quiet. It is yours. You got that cushion that you sat on every day for meditation. It has your energy. It has your energy. All you have to do is go to that place, and the inanimate objects will help you to raise your spirit, because it reminds you. This is why people go to churches or temples, to remind themselves, that there is a divine plan. That's why we do that. Why not make one in your house? So every day you're reminded. You'll never forget who you are. You'll never forget that you came from the womb of the divine, and as such you are part of the divine. And when you remember that, you're willing to forgive everybody and everything, because you realize they are the same. It's just some people don't know it. They're ignorant. This is a problem for them. They suffer. They really suffer. Ignorant people suffer. And many people ask me, no, that's not true. I see many ignorant people, they're very happy. So you don't know what goes on in their lives. Don't judge anything on the outside. Just think, how would I like to live? And I'd like to finish in Gurudev's beautiful words. Make it simple. The goal is to live a peaceful, easeful, and useful life. And head for that. And then when you do that, everything comes into place. And Master Shivananda would tell his students at the end of all the yoga teaching and practices, he said, I have 2 words to tell you. Do good, be good. Done. And we take all this knowledge, and then we understand ourselves, and then we simplify our lives. Simplify the thought practices. No more debates. You realize that everybody has different viewpoints. You're not going to debate it. It's their choice. How can you judge their choice just because you don't agree? No. That's their way. God bless them. This is my way. They may be right. I don't know. This is Gunas playing with us, teaching us. There's no right or there's no wrong. It's just the way it is. Don't disturb another's mind by your own thinking. We don't have that right. And then you become free. You just really become free.